For my final country, as yes, I'm kind of running this parallel against Union Order, which is something I don't particularly want to do, but yeah, I kind of want to round Asia, kind of like Asia and the Middle East off with this one last country. As yeah, as I just need to go over Bahrain. So yeah, here we go, as Bahrain is formerly known as the Kingdom of Bahrain. It's a small Arab kingdom located in the Persian Gulf, and is a country that's made up of a group of islands between the Qatar Peninsula and the northeastern coast of Saudi Arabia, and it is also an island country located near the western shores of the Persian Gulf in the Middle East. As Bahrain's history dates all the way back to ancient history, as Bahrain was the main city of the old Dilmun civilization, and has a strategic position in the Persian Gulf brought about rule and influence from the Arabs, Persians, Babylonians, Assyrians, Sumerians and the British. As during the Bronze Age, Bahrain came home to Dilmun civilization, and it was a country which made the country an important trade centre that linked up with Mesopotamia and Indus Valley, as the Assyrians and the Babylonians later ruled Bahrain to get dibs in it all. And from the 6th to the 3rd century BC, Bahrain was a section of the Persian Empire governed by the Achaemenian dynasty from Iran, and the other two other dynasties controlled Bahrain from the 7th century BC to the 7th century AD, when Islam arrived in the country, and these were the Parthians and Sassanids. And by about 250 BC, the Parthians brought the Persian Gulf under their control and expanded their influence as far as Oman. And they also developed garrisons along the Persian Gulf southern coast so to control the trade routes. As if you control the trade, you also control the money kind of thing. And during the classical era, the ancient Greeks referred to Bahrain as Tylos, the hub of pearl trading, where Narantius, the Greek admiral, made his first visit there, as Nachius served under Alexander the Great, who ousted Al-Hamar of the ruling tribe, as Alexander's plan was to settle Greek colonists in the country, but it's not clear whether it happened on a scale that they might have imagined. As Bahrain, however, became a section of Hellenistic, whereas Greek language was the language of the upper classes, but Aramaic was still spoken in everyday use, and Zeus was venerated in the form of the Arabian sun god Shams, as Bahrain even became a location of the Greek athletic competitions. In 899 AD, the Quraymatiyans, a millenarian Ismaili Muslim faction, conquered Bahrain in an attempt to establish a utopian community founded on reason and redistribution of property among the people, as the Quraymatiyans later on started demanding tribute from the Baghdad Caliph. In 930 AD, sacked Medina and Mecca, and brought the sacred black stone of Asher. They're based in Bahrain for ransom. And in 976, Quraymatiyans were defeated by the Abbasids and overthrown by the Arab Umayyad dynasty of Al-Hassa, and the dynasty controlled the whole of Bahrain from 1076 to 1235, when the region was temporarily inhabited by the Persian ruler of Fars. And the Umayyad dynasty was brought down in 1253, and by the Bedouin Usfarids, who gained control of eastern Arabia as well as the islands of Bahrain. The archipelago was turned into a tributary nation of rulers of Hormuz in 1330, but the islands were locally governed by the Shiite Shahwanids dynasty of Qatif as a Jabrids, a Bedouin dynasty, also located in Al-Has'a, took control of the archipelago and most of eastern Arabia in the mid-15th century. And in 1521, the Portuguese partnered with the Hamas and seized Bahrain from Miguin ibn Samil, the Jabril ruler who was murdered during the takeover. As the Portuguese rule lasted for about 80 years, and they relied on the loss on the Sunni Persian rulers. In 1602, Abbasis I of the Safavid dynasty of Persia expelled the Portuguese from the islands and gave momentum to Shia Islam as the Persian rulers retained power over the region for the next 2 centuries of brief invasions from the Ibadids of Oman in 1717 and 1738, and during most of this time the Persian rulers governed Bahrain indirectly, either through migrant Sunni Arab clans or through the city of Bushehr, as the Sunni Arab clans were tribes that were coming back to the Arabian side of the Persian Gulf regions in the north, and they were referred to as Hawala, as the Hawala clan of Nasser al-Madkur marched into Bahrain in 1753 on behalf of Karim Khan Zand and reinstated direct Iranian rule. And in 1783, Nasser al-Madkur lost to Bahrain Islands after he was defeated by the Bani Utbah tribe at the Battle of Sabara in 1782. And the Omanis and the Al-Sauds being rulers of Saudi Arabia, invaded Bahrain in the early 19th century. In 1802, Bahrain was ruled by a 12-year-old child called Salim. He was appointed by his father, Sayyid Sultan, as governor of the Arab force. And in 1816, William Bruce, British politician, resided in the Gulf, got a letter from Bahrain Sheikh. He was worried about the rumour that Britain would support an attack on Bahrain by the Imam of Muscat, as the Sheikh was reassured that was not the case, and both parties came to an informal agreement that was assured by the Sheikh of Britain's neutrality. And in 1820, Great Britain recognised that Al Khalifa as the rulers of Bahrain after signing a treaty leadership. In 1860, after writing letters to the Ottomans and in the Persians, the Al Khalifas placed Bahrain under Ottoman protection. It would offer better conditions for the country. The government of the British India eventually subdued Bahrain after the Persians declined to protect it, and a new treaty placing Bahrain under British protection and rule was therefore signed by the Al-Khalis and Colonel Pelly. Kind of reminds me of the Star Wars captain called Admiral Pelion. It was an aide for Grand Admiral Thrawn. So yeah, and after the Qatari-Bahraini War in 1868, the British delegates and the Al-Khalifas signed another agreement stating that the ruler could not give away any of his regions to anyone except the United Kingdom, and had to seek consent from the British as to engage in relationships with foreign governments, as the British in return promised to protect Bahrain from another sea confrontation and give support when attacked on land. In 1880 and 1892, other agreements were signed sealing the protectorate status of Bahrain to the British, and it was in 1892 the British formally established its authority in the territory, which seemed a little late compared to other countries and all that. And during the tenure, Britain was able to place Bahrain under the de facto rule of Charles Belgrave, and he was acting as a ruler's advisor until 1957, as Belgrave brought about a number of reforms. For instance, he founding Bahrain's first modern school in 1919, the first girls' school in the Persian Gulf in 1928, and obliterated slavery in the abolition of slavery in 1937, which also seems kind of late compared to modern countries and all. And oil was discovered in the country in 1931, and Bahrain Petroleum Company, an auxiliary of the Standard Oil Company of California, production commenced the following year, and this brought quick modernization to the country. And in the early 1930s, the Bahrain airport was constructed, and in the same decade, the Bahrain Maritime Airport was also constructed for seaplanes and flying boats. As Bahrain took part in World War II on the Allied side, after the war there was an increase in anti-British sentiment that spread throughout the Arab world, leading to the mutinies in Bahrain. As the mutinies were mostly spread throughout the concentrated on the Jewish population. In 1948, when hostilities increased, most of the Jews were forced to evacuate to Bombay, and later on settled in Israel and the UK. And in the 1950s, reformers formed the National Union Committee after sectarian clashes for an assembly that had been elected for the dismissal of Belgrade. And on the 15th of August 1971, via a referendum held by the United Nations, Bahrain declared its independence despite the Shah of Iran claiming historical autonomy over the country. As the UK and Bahrain signed a new treaty of friendship in the same year, as Bahrain became a member of the United Nations and Arab League. And after the 1979 Islamic Revolution in Iran, Bahraini Shia fundamentalists organised a failed coup attempt in 1981 under the patronage of the Islamic Front for the liberation of Bahrain. So yeah, that failed, and in 1994 to 2004, popularising took place in Islamists, liberals and leftists all joined the forces, and uprising came to an end after Hamad ibn Isa al-Khalifa was appointed Emir of Bahrain in 1999, and he released political prisoners, set up elections for parliament, and gave women the right to vote. And referendum between the 14th and 15th of September, supported by the National Action Charter, was part of its adoption, as Bahrain changed its official name from the State or Dawla of Bahrain to the Kingdom of Bahrain in 14th of February 2002. And following the Arab uprising in 2011, protests also began in Bahrain on the 14th of February. And they were mostly directed at gaining respect for human rights and more political freedom. And the protests were very peaceful until pre-dawn raid of the police on the 17th of February to disperse protesters from the Pearl Roundabout in Myanmar, where 4 protesters were killed by the police. Made some of protests increased at Alm, Ames, and called for an end of the monarchy. And on the 15th of March, King Hamad bin Isa al-Khalifa declared a 3-month state of emergency and instructed the military to strengthen its authority, since the clashes were spreading across the country. And as of March 2014, over 80 civilians and 13 policemen had been killed as a result of the uprising. So yeah. And for moving on to legends and all, I'm going to talk about the mythical Dilmun and the Island of the Dead. As in Sumerian mythology, the mythical Dilmun was known as the bright and pure land, a paradise where sickness and death did not exist, and the land of Dilmun was filled with diverse, divinely ordained and abundant water sources, brought forth by the subterranean realm of Utu or Shamash, known as the sun god, at the behests of Enki, as these waters transformed the formerly dry land into a literal garden of the gods, where the mother goddess, near her sag, tended to sacred plants and various deities were believed to have made Dimlan their home, including Enki himself. As the Sumerian Poseidon, Enki was the lord of the Absu, or abyss, in ancient cosmology, and was thought to have spent his sages, the Abkalu, and from out of the watery abyss to partners with the pre-flood kings of Babylonia, where makes the concept of Dinmun so unique among the many mythic locales in ancient literature is the many resources considered it to have been an actual place, although there are several candidates for its true identity. As some archaeologists, including Peter Bruce Cornwall and David Roll, have identified the mythic Dilmun as the island of Bahrain, located south of Eridu in the Persian Gulf. Eridu kind of sounds like something from Lord of the Rings, by the way. From its position between Mesopotamia, India, and the East African coast, Bahrain became a host of influential middlemen trafficking copper, ore, diorite, gold, tin, ivory, and semi-precious stones into Sumer, Babylon, and Assyrian until the mid-2nd millennia BC, and activities attributed to the people of the Dilmun civilization which occupied both Bahrain and the neighbouring Arab coast, as the island of Bahrain was once littered with natural springs. Many of those were not overrun by development, are today still surrounded with the ruins of sacred shrines from many eras, and there are also offshore springs beneath the sea salt, where the fresh water bubbles up from the massive underground aquifer beneath the Gulf, and it may be just the natural connection of the mythic abyss and the underworld, which resulted in the greatest archaeological mysteries in the world, the construction of over 200,000 burial mounds in Bahrain. As the majority of the Bahrain tumuli were constructed between 2300 and 1800 BC, with a range of about 1 to 3 meters in height and 3 to 11 meters in diameter. There are several much larger examples, as some of the tumuli are surrounded by traces of perfectly circular walls and highly stacked, carefully placed limestone blocks, which are typically twice the diameter of the inner mound itself, and in 1959 aerial study survey revealed that 46 out of the 75,023 tumuli observed features of ring walls, and they are also appear surrounding by some Dilmun tumuli on the adjacent Saudi Arabian coast, as these outer rings are thought to indicate mounds of particularly high status individuals of one or more ruling lineages, as chronologically ring walls initially appeared surrounding some early type mounds, appear later among larger royal mounds include 18 of the tumuli near the village of Ali, ranging from about 20 to 52 meters in diameter, with outer rings being 50 to 94 meters. And many of the larger tumuli, called royal mounds in the literature, featured two-story tombs, complete with a small passage or vertical shaft entryway. And earlier tumuli were usually small, with poorly built stone chambers, and the gradual appearance of the more elaborate mounds is considered indicative of a gradual increase in the social complexity, including the rise of an elite class, as the royal mounds of Bahrain were often built near the heads of natural springs, and in areas selected specifically for a mound field, perhaps representing a connection to the gods of the Absu, as the elite dead of Bahrain were interred with bronze weapons, hairpins and prestigious ivory artifacts, as well as elaborate drinking goblets in tombs opened at the west, perhaps to view the setting sun. On the Gulf coast of Saudi Arabia, extensive mound fields of the same types as those from Bahrain and Iran, one for the largest concentration of which at Dhahran consisted of around 50,000 tumuli dating to around 2500 BC, simply being slightly older than their Bahrain counterparts, as the Dhahran tumuli are considered representative of a time before the capital of Dinman civilization was being moved to the island, as potteries of the Uruk, Jembet Nazar and Barbar periods have been found in Dhahran, suggesting frequent interactions with Mesopotamia. And in elites of the Dilmun civilization may have been considered true royalty by the Mesopotamian world, and as evidence of a letter found at Gesu describing gifts received by a queen of Langash from a contemporary queen of Dilmun, as evidence of a influence at Dilmun, as several Bahrain mounds featured terracing style, that from early Egyptian mastaba tombs, while the Dhahran tumuli have yielded seals demonstrating Egyptian influence, such as one depicting a lion and two winged cobras wearing the crown of Upper and Lower Egypt. Another seal features a falcon seated on a cartouche, a design used in Egypt to proclaim the deceased king and the reincarnation of Horus. Could be a sacred island of many waters that have been considered primary funerary real estate in the ancient world, like estate in the ancient world, as symbolism similar to that of Bahrain was prolific throughout the ancient East, as for example the site of Byblos and Jericho both began as small villages built around enshrined or sacred wells. The possibility existed that the island of Bahrain was in fact a very ancient predecessor or later concept of an island of the dead, the archetypal forebearer of the island of Avalon. So yeah, that is Bahrain for you, and I'll see you later for news and later this week for the first of new uni videos. So yeah, bye for now.